you've been in the sport a very long time, and you have seen the progression and been an advocate for women and what they're doing and the progression, but also I think realistic about it all, because you've been there from early days. So how has it been for you as a woman in the sport, and then how have you seen the progression?
Sure. This is a whole
Podcast.
podcast on its own. Hey, sure. Well, okay. Like, I mean, the progression at the moment is unbelievable. It's mind blowing. It's amazing. It's wonderful to have all these women that that are pushing the boundaries and progressing. And it's so cool that I know Ziggy has these girls to look up to as role models. Like one day doing what they're doing is just going to be what you do. It's not going to be like a big deal, you know, and that's really, really cool to see. You have this whole like, you know, niche group of women that are really pushing the limits. But then you also have, at the same time, they're so gnarly and so advanced that you also feel a little bit like some women are scared off now. They don't want to start mountain biking because they feel like everything is so gnarly and you have to be super, super, you know, gnarly to make your mark in the sport. So it's wonderful. At the same time, I feel like you also don't want to scare a lot of women away from starting to get into the sport. So there's such a fine line between that. You know, you want to showcase that it's a welcoming sport for everybody. I look at these women now doing, I mean, I was at Hardline in Tasmania and they blew my mind, you know, what they were doing. And I have no desire to do stuff like that. Even when I was younger, I don't think I had any desire to do the crazy stuff that they're doing. But it's really amazing to witness and be part of it. You know, as far as the whole um everything has become so hard in terms of, you know, what you say, how you um, how you approach women. Do you call them women, girls, ladies? It's become such a tough topic to talk about that you know people just almost stay away from the whole thing as it's easier. But back when I started riding, we didn't have all of this stuff going on, and I find that we just rode bikes, whether it was with men, with women. We didn't have coaches. We just went riding. If you were the slowest, you would learn. You would go in the back, and you would just learn from whoever you were riding behind, and almost thrown into the deep end. And I quite like that approach. I there's a lot of, like I said, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff going on now that makes you almost afraid to even, you know, touch on the topic, to be honest. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I hear you. It is. There's a lot of noise as well, you know. And you've said a few interesting
yeah,
things, like because I was going to ask. Okay, so you said you just went up to Big Bear, you and Maxine,
yeah,
bunch of guys,
yeah,
but it actually was just a bunch of mountain bikers, as you said, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Just a bunch of mountain bikers. You happen to be the least experienced person of the lot. You ride at the
yeah,
back. Everyone seemed
yeah,
pretty welcoming. The sport is welcome.
yeah,
It's inclusive, which makes
yes,
it so awesome. Um,
yeah,
but I never thought about all the progression that's happening, and it can scare women off. With the
yeah,
males, I don't think it does. Although now, you know, watching Darkfest, if you're a kid, I guess kids don't think like that. I think about it. I'm thinking, man, I hope one day the boy doesn't want to be a slopestyle rider, because I mean that's gonna be
I
gnarly.
know.
But but kids, I guess, aspire to do these things, and it'll be normalized for them. And maybe we're
Yeah,
overthinking it, that even the young girls that are
mm,
teenagers getting into the sport maybe don't think like this. I don't know. Maybe it's our age that does. But
yeah,
I think you're right. If it progresses so far, you've got to. capture them in the beginning and show them another side, that
Yeah.
because there's all these steps, right, to getting that good. You know,
Yeah, like
the girls that are doing hardline did start somewhere. They didn't start at
yeah.
hardline, you know.
No, no, and that's why, it's taken a lifetime of, if you see old footage of Tane where she was a little girl, where she, is getting, looking up to Rachel. So she's been at it her whole life. Like it it didn't happen overnight, and it's taken her so long to get to where she is today, and just for an example. But and I think, like you said, the younger generation of women, girls, they are being raised, whether they're a girl or a boy, their parents are raising them the same way. There's no, difference. So they don't see, obstacles as, they don't see it as, girls don't look at it going, oh, I can't do that. It's just going to become the norm because that's how they were raised, which is which is really cool to see. I mean, you see it throughout skating, surfing. These little young girls are just ripping. You can't tell if it's a girl or a boy anymore. Um, at the same time, I feel women are always pushed to be so, especially in mountain biking. You always have to do hard stuff. You always have to be gnarly. You always have to be tough. You always have to put up this, like, I'm a badass front, all the time, that you often lose sight, and you often lose that feminine side, um,
Mm,
which
okay.
which is also, um, which you don't even realize when you're in the thick of it. But you're always putting up this, like, tough front, because you have to be tough in the mountain bike industry, and things are scary, so you convince yourself that, I can do it. Um so it definitely, like, has an effect on women's health over the years. You see a lot of women with adrenal fatigue, um a lot of, sort of, they're sick again, but we mask, for years you mask being a woman. You're training through your cycle. Men coaches are training women the same as they do men, treating them the same, and you have to do the same tracks, do the same, so you definitely, women are definitely forgetting how to be women as well. So that is the one thing that you know it's good to be gnarly and tough and do all these things, but at the same time, you have to also remember that you are a woman. That it, respect that we are different. We have to train differently. We have to be treated differently. Mentally, we respond differently to you know different scenarios. Um, and I think if you can find that balance, then that is what, that'll be a good a good asset for girls to be gnarly and do all the hard and crazy stuff, but don't forget that you are a girl, and you're allowed to be soft. You're allowed to wear pink. You're allowed to enjoy dancing or other feminine things. Don't completely forget about the the things that are special to being a woman as well.
That is super interesting, Anka. Thanks for sharing that, because I don't even think we've dived too deep into that off a podcast, which I wish we had, because you know, my wife wanted to do some half Ironman stuff and started getting deep into the training. And then I didn't know there's books on it, on how to
Yeah,
train
yeah,
on and off your cycle. And I was like,
yeah,
she said, read this chapter. I think I might have found it. I was like, this is insane.
yeah,
Makes so much sense.
yeah,
How could you not, listen to the body? And there's
yeah,
different times to train different intensities. So I was like, okay, that's physical. And then you mentioned
yeah,
something about the emotions. Like, if you block those out, they probably manifest physically. We all know that happens to
yeah,
males as well in different ways. And we're seeing it in other sports. There's been some very high profile athletes that have opened up about, mental health. Um,
yeah,
and it makes sense if you push to be someone you're not, or put on this act. I mean, it happens even in the males category. Let me tell you that. You can't
Yeah.
admit you're mentally struggling or you not
No.
feeling well, like, because then you're not hardcore, especially in a sport of downhill, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty interesting. I mean, it makes me think like there are these differences, and it's like we're not allowed to admit that factually that there's
Yeah.
a biological difference between male and woman. I'm probably going to get in
Yeah.
some shit for that. Just saying that. I mean,
No.
that's just a
No.
fact, right? So there's the fact that there's a difference. So that means they relate different to stress, different to fear.
Hmm.
I mean, even social
Hmm.
awareness and
Yeah.
spatial, not social awareness, spatial awareness is factually being
Yeah.
tested as different. Apparently,
Yeah.
like if there's a free throw male doing free throws in basketball and free throw woman, there's an actual difference because of the chemistry in your brain or the makeup. I'm going to
Yeah.
butcher it,
Mm.
and that's just a fact. Like you don't even think
Yeah.
like that. You're not allowed to.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's interesting stuff, and it's nice. I know, again, I'm using Tanya, but like I know Rachel and Tanya and all these high profile athletes are touching on those subjects and making them non-taboo to talk about these
Mm,
days,
yeah.
and that's really good because the younger generation, they need to, you don't learn about that stuff when you're young. You only figure it out when you're sort of getting older and almost finishing up your career. But if they are aware of these things now at an earlier age, you can learn how to manage it and work with coaches and work with nutritionists and really tailor your program to work to be in sync with your body as a whole, mentally and spiritually, and I think you can get better results, and have a longer career, and just approach things in a clearer way. If you just not in the right headspace to be hitting stuff like at hardline, it's if you plan things a bit, I think women will have greater success, and their potential will come out, um, and they'll do better. I really believe that. But that's a whole nother podcast episode, Andrew.
It definitely is. We'll have to get you on again. I'm just thinking that you need to get into a team manager role or a support role because you could
I
definitely
know.
help the younger generation, maybe I guess normalize what they're going through. It's an okay feeling. It's normal. Maybe
Yeah, yeah,
this isn't your week. It's going to be a tougher week.
exactly.
Let's manage that, and then we'll see how we are the next one. Whether it's from your cycle, the emotions, or the track that you really aren't gelling with, and that's okay.
Mhm.
But we're
Yeah,
really not allowed to in professional sport to admit these sort of from the outside looking like weaknesses. So with all
yeah,
you've learned, would you then have done some things differently with your racing, looking back?
sure. I guess because I'm definitely more sort of knowledgeable about my health and all of that at this stage. It's always been a topic that I've been interested in, and I'd love to delve deeper into that and work with athletes. That would be great, especially because we all have a tendency to go, 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 and we don't make enough time to calm and slow down and actually give our nervous system time to recover. And that is something that I've been trying to practice for the last few years. And it definitely is something that should be incorporated into every athlete's training program. And I know athletes won't do it. The majority of athletes won't do it if it's not written in their program, because there's just no time for you know extra stuff. But I definitely feel that it would be so good for most athletes to learn a little bit about, and not just men. It's not just like a men, women's or men. It's everyone, but
Mm,
especially women. And like you said, most men aren't even aware of it. So, if you're on a team with a bunch of guys, they don't know what you're going through. Um, and if you could educate them on all these things that women go through, usually by themselves, and have to deal with on top of race pressure and race stress, and all of that, then they might be more understanding or supportive. And but I find the men these days in the industry are so supportive of the women. For the majority, it's really awesome to see how they're supporting the girls out there, how they're encouraging them, helping them. So um, it seems like a real, like it's a real, in a healthy state out there. There's so much mutual respect, and everyone's supporting everyone. So it's just pretty cool sport to be involved in. Very fortunate.
It is, and I think the support and the respect's definitely there. I don't think the
Mm.
education and understanding's there though, because if you look
Yeah,
at how the support structures of teams are based, it's very male dominated.
yeah,
From the mechanic side to team managers, it's not on purpose. It's not
no,
at all on purpose. It'd be interesting, I think, yeah, with education and talking, and if there's a female on a team and there's three teammates. I mean, I had a female teammates, and we had it was
mm,
great times. But I must say, now I've learned a lot more. I would probably
yeah,
have been a little bit better of a teammate. I think we
yeah,
all could agree. We all got on. It was great, but I bet you there were times that we didn't understand each other. I didn't understand what a teammate was
yeah.
going through.
True. Yeah. But I mean, it's also, things are changing, and it is going in the right direction. And with more and more young junior up and coming, there's more talent. And I think with that emerging, more and more teams will have, more women on the team. So it's already a lot better than, the presence of women out there is, it's already a lot more, you know it's really growing, and it's good to see. And the young girls, I mean, there was an enduro out here the other week, the New Zealand nationals, and the young girls, the under 17 girls, had faster times than some of the elite men. So that was really, really cool to see.
That's
So
unreal. That's
I
cool.
know it was really cool. But yeah, I think as long as you don't forget, the whole man, woman, it's just enjoy what you're doing. Just get out there, ride bikes, inspire people to ride bikes, enjoy where it takes you. Um, don't take it too seriously. Just, have mutual respect for everybody and try and learn from each other. It's pretty simple, really.